guys want to pray before we start?
Yeah. Let's get the Lord's blessing really quickly.
We
Dear
always have the
Adamandra.
Lord.
Welcome back. What's up? Hey, ladies.
Who raised this man?
Literally, I was just listening to a comedy bit recently about how if you want to make yourself sound creepy, just literally say the word ladies. Oh, it was Dimitri Martin. That's right. He said, if you want to make anything sound dirty, just say ladies afterwards. Hey, who wants to belay me? Ladies.
Oh my God.
Who's trying to hop on this 5'9" with me, dude? Ladies.
That's so accurate.
Verbatim,
It makes
yeah.
it weird.
Brooke, my cohort, that almost came out of my mouth weird. Did it come out of my mouth weird? Because it sounded wrong.
Well,
Cohort?
no, you said the word right, but it's the wrong word.
I mean, I was planning on saying cohort, not co-host, but it still just, as it's coming out of my mouth, it sounds wrong.
It's a weird word.
Yeah.
But you said it right.
Yeah.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The encouragement.
Liliana,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
It's your first time. You are a listener and a fan of Vertical Thoughts,
This is a fact.
allegedly. Yeah.
Yeah. Only listened to like 2 episodes, but
Yep.
I'm just kidding.
Which 2 episodes?
The one about sexual assault and the sexual harassment, actually.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
bad.
No assault has occurred.
I was going to correct you, but I was like, woo.
I mean, I should rephrase. Assault has occurred, but we didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't their fault.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Welcome back to Cold Case Files. Number 121, sexual assault. What was the other one? Sexual harassment with Katie Jo Myers. And
Yes. And then the one with Kobe in it. There's a
course.
lot of Kobe.
The people love Kobe.
There's a lot of Kobe.
Yeah.
So
Kobe is a lot of Kobe.
Kobe's definitely a lot of Kobe. Your Kobe impression earlier was great, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very good at mimicking body language, and Kobe has a fantastic body language. A great
Yep.
body.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, he's a minor. Just kidding. He's not a minor.
He just had a
not.
birthday.
Yeah, he's 20 years old. He's an adult man. I can say that. It's cool. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You are a local climber here in Southern California. Allegedly, right?
I do climb. This is true.
Occasionally.
Pretty rarely recently, actually. So
I know the feel. Yeah.
the tears.
You also are an employee at a local climbing gym. Is that right?
Yes, this is also true.
Give him a little love shout.
Hi, Rock Fitness. It's Lily.
It's me. I work there.
I work here. Please raise my pay. Just kidding.
This is you heard it here first. Bump
No,
it
just
up.
kidding.
I'm totally not kidding. It's okay.
You can ask. The worst they can say is no, right?
Very true.
Yeah. So we're gonna chat today about climbing.
Is this? I thought this. What? This is a climbing podcast?
I mean, it can be other things too. We've talked about barbecue thoughts.
Yeah, I thought this was barbecue thoughts. That's the only reason I agreed to.
Oh no, that's
agreed
in
to
the
come
next.
on.
That's in the next room over.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
Liam. No.
If you weren't listening, that noise was because Burke was making out with me and not because I was doing weird mic stuff. That's why. Anyways.
You invited me here, and
You live here. I invited Liliana here. And
All right.
She's the one that can leave.
I
So,
have nothing more to say then. You're right.
so we're going to talk a little bit today about something that I have been questioned about a lot, actually. So I think, and I say I think because I have no way to actually physically track this, but a lot of our listeners are either new to climbing or new to certain aspects of climbing, or speaking relatively, it's still in the beginner stages of climbing and getting used to things and exploring new things. And we're at an age right now in the climbing industry where, there's more of those people than ever have been before, right? So naturally you have people transitioning from one way to the other. And in my experience, when people find climbing, so, someone watches it, let's say on the Olympics next year, and they find it, they discover climbing, they say, wow, this is really cool. I want to try it out. I've heard of it, but I didn't know it was so established, right? They go to the climbing gym. Realistically, I think a lot of people for their first trip there are going to be more drawn towards bouldering if it's available, because for two reasons. Number one is that it's just more accessible. It's just easier. You just toss on some shoes and go. But number two, just the intimidation thing. It's not as tall, So I think a lot of people will try routes for sure. You know what I mean? They'll be like, hey, well, this is like what I envisioned when I thought of rock climbing. So let's strap on a harness and go. But I think when you actually get into climbing, in other words, buy a membership, start climbing regularly, you know what I mean? Bouldering, I think for a lot of people who are new to the sport is going to be more attractive. And accessibility has a lot to do with that. You don't have to buy a harness. You don't have to buy ropes. There's roadblocks you have to overcome to sport climb. And I've been asked the question a lot. How do I get from bouldering? How do I get over that hump into sport climbing? What's the beta for that? I gotta be the first to tell you. For me, it was just secondhand. I mean, I climbed with people who were my best friends I call them climbers. I mean, they were all about everything about the sport. Rope skills, technical skills, rope climbing, lead climbing, trad, crack, whatever it is, they were about it. And so I kind of got grandfathered into that. But for me, I think it would be much more difficult to make the transition on my own from bouldering to sport climbing.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially lead climbing.
Yeah.
It's a totally different ballgame. It's very intimidating. So we're here to talk about that. And you've recently made the jump, made the switch.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think one thing about lead climbing that a lot of people don't understand is the endurance part of it. I know we previously talked about it. I think a lot of people don't understand that you have to first be able to build up your endurance and get the hang of the whole clipping part. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can learn when it comes to lead climbing. But I think one thing, like as I've said like 3 times now, the endurance part. It's really hard for people to understand it. They think, oh yeah, I can climb for a half hour. I can totally do lead climbing. You can't. You have to really like dig yourself into it, stick to sport climbing for a while, get the hang of going up and down a few times without feeling so out of breath and pumped, because you get really, really pumped up there.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It's pretty intense. So
it's exhausting.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it right now and I'm just
breaking a sweat.
I need to go lay down.
Get a nap.
I actually frequently think about that when I finish a climb, like bouldering, and I'm like tired.
Winded.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
How far did I just climb right now? Like, why am I tired?
Is that 1,000 moves I just did?
How do you do it 3 times this distance,
Yeah. I recently tested out at Mesa Rim, and their walls are, 55 feet high. They're pretty gnarly.
Very tall.
The quick draws are very far placed apart. And getting up to about 3/4 of the way up and like getting that final clip in before I had to take the actual fall, I was so pumped that I literally thought, if I let go right now, I'm probably going to fall and die. And I had to fall and then reclimb that to anchor in. And my arms felt like they were going to fall off. Like I actually did leave after that portion. After that was passed, I went home and took a very long sleep.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not recovering from this today. I can do no more climbing.
You go shake out at home.
Everyone was like, let's go to the moon board. And I was like, let's go home.
Yeah.
Let's drive right now.
Nothing like getting pumped out of your mind and then hitting the moon board for an hour. Right.
Yeah.
I know you just said those words and I had to try not to laugh. I was like, oh my gosh, after you get that pumped out.
Yeah. I mean, you make the 2.5 hour drive to San Diego. You kind of want to stay a little longer.
Right.
But
Exactly.
And they have
it makes
a moon
sense.
board.
Right. So how could you not?
Yeah, we don't have a moon board. So, it's kind of attractive.
How could you not give it a shot when you're there?
Yeah. But you got to go through those moments when you think you're going to die. You got to go through that. You're going to have them. When you first start lead climbing, you're going to think you're going to die for sure.
Especially when it comes to clipping. Like you get so nervous, but it comes naturally after a little while. You just have to trust it. Yeah. And then the unexpected falls that you think are going to be the worst aren't that bad.
Right.
They're not like super, super intense to where you like, before you even know it's over.
Yeah.
So.
You don't have time to be like, oh
my
no,
God.
this is bad. Yeah. You're falling. Yeah. It's different. We have 3 different perspectives. Brooke, you've never lead climbed before.
Right.
Have you done sport climbing before?
I have. So I went sport climbing outdoors one time, and it was when I was a very, very inexperienced climber. I went with a group of people who are really experienced. They're just really outdoorsy people in general, Eagle Scouts, that kind of thing. So I had really good leadership to do that. We were in Joshua Tree, and it was super fun. It was really scary. Like I said, I was inexperienced. So I hadn't even been doing a lot of bouldering at that point. So to be that high up, like I think I almost died. Like just from fear.
There you go.
Not from the climbing.
What I just say?
Just from fear.
It's gonna happen.
Like they had to force me to let go of the wall or the rock, I guess, and just like sit into it so that I could get it in my head that I was going to be okay. And I don't like that I was that person. Like I was that person like shaking up there, you know, and it was many years ago when I wasn't very experienced. So it makes sense. It's just like a normal person you pulled off the street pretty much and like put them super high up on the rock.
Let go.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I was like,
grab some rando
are
off
crazy.
the street.
That's like,
hey, you put this harness on.
it's pretty much how I felt. Like, I was like, what am I doing here? You know?
Yeah.
But once they made me do that and I really accepted the fact that nothing bad was going to happen to me.
Yeah.
I had so much fun. And I did sport climbing in a gym. I'm trying to think of which gym it was because I was out of town.
Wasn't it up north, like Central California or something?
Yeah, in Fresno area. I want to say, I don't want to sound stupid and like insult the gym because it was a few years ago. I think it was like Metal Mark.
Dope. Shout out to Metal Mark.
Sorry if that's wrong. It was a few years ago and I only went there one time. But they like showed us how to belay each other. I went with my dad actually, and it was really, really fun. So I've only been those couple times and it was a really great experience. It also was really nerve wracking.
Yeah.
So I totally get what you mean talking about that. But it was great. And I really just am dying to do more of it. The cat has arrived. Oh, wow. We don't have a lot of that type of gear.
We don't have the walls either.
Yeah.
Our home gym.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And we've talked about it before, that Liam and I work a ton. And so learning something new or making a lot of outdoors trips like isn't ideal for us at this point of our lives. But it is a really big goal of mine in climbing is to broaden my skill into different... I can't with her. She's so
Hello,
funny.
Layla. We see you. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for giving the view to everybody like that. That was a lot. But yeah, that's a huge goal of mine in climbing is to broaden my skill into different types of climbing and learn new things and stick with bouldering too. But
Yeah.
People forget that. That's one thing that I think people don't think about, and kind of what you were talking about a little bit. People forget that they are entirely separate skill sets. Entirely. You're still rock climbing, but you are doing a very different thing.
I typically see a lot of different athletes come in, one of them regularly being wrestlers. And, wrestlers think, oh, I'm very strong. Like, I have a lot of muscle. I can endure. And then they get on the wall. The grip's not the same. The footwork is not the same. Like, there's a lot of different aspects. And I think that bouldering and sport climbing and lead climbing, like, you can think you're pretty good and, like, you have that toughness to you, but you don't. Like, it does require a lot of work. So,
yeah. And you have to do it. I mean,
yeah.
you don't develop those skills until you do it. No one ever has just gotten on the wall and put away a 513A. Like, it just it doesn't happen, So one thing I will say for those out here who are preparing to make the transition to start sport climbing or start lead climbing, the first thing I should say is actually about that specifically. Start top roping first. Just do yourself a favor, top rope for a while, get it down, then make your way into lead climbing. Just slow your roll, bud. Just, you don't have to, if you need an ego check, find the nearest moon board. We're just talking about this. Yeah, if you need to feel bad, but no, lead
if you
climbing.
need to feel bad, go to the moon
sometimes
board.
I just need to feel bad, so I moon board. If I wasn't convinced that I'm not good enough at rock climbing, hop on the moon board, dude. Quick sesh, you know what I mean? Yo, I suck, dude. No, but it's really hard. Prepare to get beat up. That's what I can say. Prepare to be bad at something again. And actually, trainingbeta.com talked about this a little bit with climber Matt Pincus, and he had some really good thoughts about it. And that was one of the things he said is this is actually like one of the first lines in the article. It says, I know this sounds completely ridiculous, but I can honestly say I climbed V11 before I led 510. Now, a 510 is significantly easier than a V11. However, not if your power endurance is lacking. And those are the two words that I really will like throw at you if you're looking into getting into sport climbing. Power endurance. Being able to leverage your power and tell yourself, I have 50 moves left in this climb. I can expend this much power for the next one. Bouldering is about those 100% moments. When you have a move, you have to give 100% to. You have to donate all of your energy and power into this move. Stick it, release, get back on the wall, keep going. Route climbing is very different. You can't spend 100% of your energy in 5 moves. You'll pump out, you'll fall off the wall. It's just the way it goes. You have to learn to portion yourself, and pick when you can give enough power to certain moves. And then that's what lead climbing really is. The better you get at lead climbing, it's just your power endurance is growing. You're able to expend more power over a longer period of time. Because, realistically, I've never felt a single move on say a 512D, a pretty hard lead climb. I've never done a single move and been like, yo, that move was really hard. It's the bottom to top, 11-mile long. I obviously have been bouldering a lot recently. I used to lead climb and sport climb all the time, and I recently made the switch back. And so for me, my power endurance right now is very poor. I learned that when I traverse, and I try to traverse more and more because our gym does not have sport walls, so I do that as a way to build endurance. But learning to leverage your power against how many moves you have left is very important. So really, you have to train for that specifically. And Matt talked about that a lot in the article. Head over to trainingbeta.com and read the article if you like. It's really good. He talks about how he was a very prominent, very strong boulderer, and then couldn't climb 510, and gets on it, and it's just not his thing, and his endurance is bad. And V11's crazy, that's a very strong person. So falling off of 510 while climbing V11 is probably pretty discouraging, but you're going to be bad at it. It's the nature of it.
Yeah, I've taken people to the gym before who have seen me lead climb, and it's their first time in the gym, and they're like, "Oh, let me try that," and I'm like,
"No,
you might get a little scared." Also, you're not certified, so no.
Certified.
Well, I have a good friend of mine, Justin, and he is probably the most outgoing climber that I know. He does the craziest boulder moves on the easiest top ropes or the hardest lead climbs. He tries so hard to make those super risky moves all the way up in the air that just you can't really expect and you don't want your climbing partner to do. I think one thing that really helps a lot is control, training as far as locking off or doing the hold over the hold before you grab onto it for 3 seconds. It helps you maintain that control and that that actual sanity of your body to where you're not exerting so much to where instead of Liam said a climbing or a move being super hard, it's just easy, controlled, and smooth. You would rather have a climb go slow and know what you're doing rather than try to get up as fast as you can. So
yeah, absolutely
right. And that's kind of something that we talk about every now and then is what makes a really good climber is not always which routes you finish or what grade you climb at, but how well you do it and how you look when you're doing it. If you look controlled and you look strong rather than you're falling up the wall, two people can do the same climb, but you
would rather look like a ballerina on the wall.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You want to be a master of what you're doing. You don't want to be just getting by. And that's fine. When you're pushing your boundaries and you're doing harder and harder climbs, it's fine if you're not doing them very well, if you're not looking very good, but keep doing them, until you've mastered your craft. You want to be a master of your level.
Yeah. So I think that's just one thing people need to work on is the control. And again, it's not about getting up as fast as you can. It just really is about making sure you're safe and you're doing things right. I've seen this happen a few times where people end up backclipping or they Z-clip. If no one is familiar with that
can
term.
you say more about that?
So backclipping is where you'll actually twist the rope and the rope end that's attached to you should be coming out on the frontal end of the carabiner actually comes through the back. So you don't want that to happen, because when you fall, it'll kind of like jack you up a bit. And then as far as Z-clipping, it's from where you grab below the carabiner. So from where you last clip, and then you re-clip, which will end up not catching you. It won't catch you till the very first clip that you clipped in. So you'll basically be skipping one. But you just want to make sure that you take your time with it and you don't rush through it, because I've missed quite a few clips doing my lead climbing just because you're in the moment, but you have to really just stop and like think about it, because again, safety needs to be like one of your main priorities. So
don't get too ahead of yourself,
Yeah, take the class. I mean, if you're thinking about it, I fully encourage you, go to your local gym, take the lead class. The people know what they're talking about. Some stuff just has to be taught. Bouldering's pretty intuitive. Get up on the wall and go up.
Yeah, your body can learn it.
Yeah, the technique is not necessarily intuitive, but the goal and the objective itself is pretty intuitive. When you get into rope skills and gear placement and that kind of stuff, it not only becomes life or death, literally, even inside the gym, it's still life or death, but it becomes much more technical and nuanced. Like all the little tiny stuff becomes very, very important, where your life and your safety and the safety of others hangs in the balance. So take the class, learn how to belay properly. For God's sake, if you're going to be, a sport climber, learn to belay and belay other people. Don't be the guy who only gets belayed and never belays anyone else. Just not good. Really just think about everything you're doing. Pay very close attention to your body, because all the little intricacies of the sport really come to play when you're on a route. When you're on something especially difficult, when you're getting up into the higher grades of route climbing, every movement has to be perfect. You have to be very precise. You can't spend too much energy. On a boulder problem, you cut feet, you swing away from the wall. If you reel it back in, oftentimes you can still kind of pull it together. Sometimes on a route, that's all it'll take to make your job. It's just cut feet once. You spend a little bit too much energy, and then now your banks are depleted. You're good to go, and then you just fall 3 moves later. You know what I mean? So you got to pay attention to every little thing, and that's hard to do. And again, you're not going to be good at it for the first little while, and that's okay. Totally okay. We all sucked at climbing. Getting over that initial hump is like really where it comes in, because it's gonna test you for sure. And the grading system is different, and in my opinion, it's just a different sport. I mean, I know it's all rock climbing, but sport climbing is entirely different than bouldering, and there's a reason they're separate disciplines, and even in the Olympics they're separated. We have obviously the combined system, but it's there's boulderers and then there's route climbers. There's people who do both and do both really extremely well, but it's very difficult to be extremely good at both of those, and oftentimes it takes training 3 to 7 times a week, to be able to keep up high numbers in terms of grades on, route climbs and boulders. It's difficult. And that's why I've chosen to dedicate a lot of my time to bouldering, is because 1, it's just more accessible to me. And 2, it's easier and I'm lazy. And 3, because the biggest thing, I mean, our home gym didn't have rope walls. So it just seemed like a pretty clear choice to me when I got back into climbing. I'm going to focus on bouldering. Now, I know what you're saying. Your home gym doesn't have ropes. Suck it up and go outside, right? Now, there are people who do definitely think like that. I do want to say that if you are part of the group of people who feels like that's too difficult or too expensive, or, there's accessibility issues for you, you're not alone. I mean, that's absolutely valid. It is expensive. And not everyone has someone they can borrow gear from. And sometimes borrowing gear is dangerous. Sometimes buying used gear is dangerous. You know what I mean? When it's your gear, you know everything. You know how old the rope is, how old the draws are. You know that you trust it. You've used it. When you're borrowing someone else's, or if you purchase someone else's used gear, there's a whole lot of gray areas that start to illuminate themselves. When, how old is this quick draw, or how safe is this rope? How long have you had this? There's some fraying here. A lot of questions come into play. Yeah,
it's not something I really have ever thought about. I mean, I've thought about how expensive gear is, and I have thought about buying used gear if we're ever going to try something like that, or I guess if I'm ever going to try something like that. But this safety concern and like thinking about the age, and that's not really something that's ever crossed my mind.
I think one thing that is probably most sketchiest about lead climbing and indoor versus outdoor aspect of it is outdoor climbing. You don't know how well maintained the bolts are on the route.
Yeah.
Because I recently went outdoors to Malibu Creek, and one of the bolts was just super rusty. Like it looked trustworthy, but then again, you don't really know. Especially with outdoors, no one's checking on them, no one's taking a log of them. There's not really anything like to prevent like that coming out of the rock. I don't know what just happened.
Are you okay?
I think I had a stroke. It's okay. But like versus indoor climbing is you know which holds to grab. There's a color difference. There's tape. Depending on your gym, we use color, but there's like that difference. And then outdoors, it's like, which hole do I grab? The one that's chalky. They're all chalky. There's chalk everywhere. Like, but just be safe going outdoors, only because again, like the use of gear can be really crazy. You don't know if someone dropped that ATC 3 times in a row on a concrete floor from 2 stories up. Like there's really no way of knowing. So
yeah, used gear is a very big gray area in climbing as to whether or not that's okay. Even from someone I knew personally very well, I don't think I would ever purchase used gear in terms of like sport climbing and that kind of stuff. I'd just rather buy new. It's the safest, and it really is much higher risk than it is snagging someone's used crash pad.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
think of,
Definitely.
I'm not going to say mine, but think of the top 3 worst things you can think of that have happened to that person's crash pad. Probably none of them are going to kill you. I don't think.
Yeah.
They may be pretty bad. Don't get me wrong, because I just thought of mine right when I pitched that question. Terrible, you know?
You're talking about the worst thing that's ever happened to your crash pad? Like,
No,
or
I
the
was
worst thing
thinking
you
of the-
think of?
yeah.
Okay, I was like, what
getting
happened to our
hypothetical,
crash pad?
you know? Yeah.
What have you done?
I really went deep down the rabbit hole on that one. And it's
I
awful.
like-
But
Yeah, my mind just
not
went
gonna
so
kill you.
many ways. Like, what happened to our crash pad?
yeah.
you're like,
But-
that's why it's not here. It's not Kobe. It's dead.
That's why it's gone.
Thanks,
I knew
Kobe.
it.
Yeah, it's safety is a huge concern, and I would encourage you, if you're not experienced, to go with someone who is. There's nothing, in my opinion, more dangerous than a group of inexperienced climbers outdoors. That's volatile. That's a very dangerous situation,
Yes.
for a number of reasons. Now,
That's going to give me nightmares.
not everyone can be experienced. I get that, right?
Right.
Just bring
of course.
someone along who is. Mm-hmm. Number 1, they can rope gun if you need them to. It's real handy, you know. I like to top rope every once in a while. I don't feel like, you know, no clippy for me. You know, just get up on the rope and just get tugged up the wall, you know. A little lazy boy every once in a while. Go out to Boy Scout wall and just hit some 5.5s, 5.6s all day long. Dynos even. I'm dynoing out there. I'm the worst. I'm the worst sport climber out there. Okay, so, but bring someone experienced with you because they can really show you the ropes. And here's the biggest reason.
Show you the ropes.
Let me tell you. It's my pun. I didn't even know it. I'm a poet.
Okay, Reimer, chill.
Didn't even know it. When the shit hits the fan, not if, but when the shit hits the fan, the person with experience is going to know what to do. That's the biggest thing. If you don't have experience, let's say you just started climbing and you're still new to outdoors and you're still new to lead climbing, but you're very good, you know, and you let it get to your head and you're like, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to bring my friends, you know, and they really don't climb very much, but let's just do it, you know. When something bad happens, you're not going to know what to do because you've never been in that situation before. Mm-hmm. Bring the dude who's been in that situation before and knows what to do. People die climbing all the time. I think that people don't realize that. We shield ourselves from it, but here in Southern California, people die climbing.
Yeah.
Often. Just recently, someone took a really nasty fall out of Joshua Tree, and they think that I wouldn't say they think, but basically the end of the rope was not knotted and the rope wasn't long enough, and they didn't know that, or were planning on dropping down to a ledge and down climbing or something like that, and the person fell and died. And
wow.
It's so easy to end your life in a matter of seconds. Mm-hmm. And I'm not discouraging you from going outdoors and doing big walls and, you know, rope climbing, sport climbing, lead climbing. I'm not discouraging you from that, but safety is no joke.
Yeah, but you need to know truly what the risks are and
fully acknowledge what could happen. Mm-hmm. And again, you're going to have that moment where you're like, they told me I could die, and today's the day. I'm going to die right now. Happened to me indoors many times. The first few times lead climbing, I was like, well,
I'm dead.
Here we are.
well, I will die.
So many people that I want to, that I want to thank for
Yelling
for
from
the
the top
ride.
of the wall, thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. Thanks to my dog.
I never met Adamandra. Can someone call him?
Make-A-Wish Foundation, but for Liam Wynn.
Just call him while I'm up on the wall. I think I'm about to die. It's really chossy up here, man.
Indoors.
They're like, don't call again. Please never
Get
call
out of
this
here.
line again. Yeah, safety is really no joke. Bring someone along with experience or gain that experience. Go as much as you can, as often as you can, and learn as much as you can.
Just don't learn offline. That's all I have to say. I've had friends who come in to take the belay class, and they do like the weirdest knots. They don't tie it right, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, this is it." And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "It's only $12. Like, just take the class." I mean, because I know a couple of people who go outdoor climbing, and they have all of the gear that they need to. Some of it's used, some of it's like brand new, but they go out, they don't know what they're doing, and they take people with them. And when things hit the fan, it will be bad. And so just, I think learning things properly, and like, I know it sounds expensive, just do it. It's worth it in the end. So
yeah, take a course. That person who's teaching you is experienced. Learn from someone who knows.
Can I just say I'm like getting really hyped up right now about like giving this a try.
lead climbing?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm getting really hyped up about it right now.
What about you,
Well,
listener and or viewer? Are you feeling hyped to lead climb?
well, hold on now. I'm talking
Use
about
code
sport
Liam10
climbing.
for,
Oh,
for
okay.
10% off your next.
Stop.
I don't have a code for you. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys.
One thing though, if you do come to Rock Fitness, we do have quick draws along our auto belay routes. So if you ever did want to try like learning how to do that, you could come in. We'll give you guys like a test rope, and we'll help you guys like learn the clipping basics of it to where you could go up a top rope or a auto belay and not have that risk of falling and dying.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
So-
I think once it cools down a little bit, Rock Fitness doesn't have AC, and that's not worth my life.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we can all undisputably.
Because I don't do heat. Like, it's too hot.
We're asthma
I'm not
people.
walking outside.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I got permanent bronchitis. I don't do stuffy places.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And as embarrassing as it is for me to admit this, like, I do think I'm pretty high maintenance, and if it's inclement weather, I am not happy. Too cold, too hot, not happy. I will take the cold a million times before I take the hot.
Yeah.
The hot. The heat.
The hot.
So yeah, once it cools down a little bit, I will be there at Rock Fitness, and I'm gonna learn some new stuff. I hope you will be there to help me a little bit, so that I can know what I'm doing. But I'm high stoke right now about this.
Yeah.
Stoke is high in the Vertical Thought Studio.
Yeah.
It's intimidating, I think, and daunting for some people, again, who are just starting in bouldering even and are not necessarily at the level they would like to be at in bouldering, and they want to transition. I would absolutely encourage you to give it a shot. Try it out. It's not going to be the end of the world if you take a bad fall. You're going to take a bad fall. Learn how to fall. Take the course, like we're talking about. Learn from an expert, and don't take bad advice. Liliana kind of talked about that a little bit. I'm big into research. Do as much research and intake as much information as possible, but learn how to parse, the bad information from the good. And how you do that is freaking ask someone who knows,
Yeah,
dude.
talk to people who know.
Yeah, we're right back to the experts.
Yeah.
Talk to the experts. Find the old dude at your climbing gym that's been lead climbing since 1975, and literally join that dude at the hip and just follow him around. Yeah.
We have a couple of those at Rock Fitness. So
Go find one of them
cool.
at Rock Fitness. Grab his pocket and just follow him around.
Yeah, he'll tell you
He'll
a lot
like
of
that.
stories.
It'll be a great time. Don't tell him that I told you to do that. You didn't hear that from me.
You did hear it from Liam.
Not on record or anything.
Yeah. You can't prove it. I'll see you in court. But no, follow around the old guy who really knows his way around a rope and who's been doing it for forever and did it back when ropes were not the ropes that we have now. When ropes were literally just like a burlap
Ropes.
sack wound up tightly. Yeah. Really, that's the only way you can get good at something like that is doing it, experience it, and really experience it for yourself. Decide how how you feel about it. Mm-hmm. And the first transition, I promise, is the most difficult part.
Yeah.
And
Just like when you very first start
yeah.
climbing in general, like that's the hardest part. So everyone might be getting sick of hearing me talk about it, but I hated climbing when I first started because I was so bad at it and it hurt my arms and my hands. And I was like, what's the payback here? You know,
What do I gain from this?
I achieved nothing and now I hurt.
Is that a Ray Bradbury novel? I achieved nothing and I'm in pain.
Oh my gosh.
An excerpt
Liam's
from Ray
too good.
Bradbury.
But yeah, I could not be happier that I pushed through that. I think where I am in my life and everything that I have in my life is because of that, because I pushed through that. I mean, climbing is the center of my life. I have all my friends because of climbing. I have Liam because of climbing. And if I didn't push through that, I mean, my life would be different right now. And so switching your discipline in climbing, not really switching, but like learning a new discipline, I guess. Not that you have to get rid of your old one, but and it's going to be the same thing. We were talking about it already, but you don't think you're going to be good at a different discipline in climbing just because you're good at one. It's different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think definitely getting over the hump of like, you just can't let the frustration get to your head. I think that's one thing that a lot of people who try lead climbing or even top roping is they get tired of trying over and over and getting at the same spot. They get to the same clip or they get halfway up the wall and then they just want to come down. That's fine. Just keep working on it, because I mean, it's not just something you'll gain overnight. It's not a snap and then you're good. Like it's a lot of work. That's what climbing is. Like even bouldering. Like everyone starts out at a V0. Everyone does.
Yeah, and it gets frustrating when you feel like you're not making progress. I mean, your progression is not always going to be like the steady, consistent uphill. Like you go through plateaus and you go through crappy sessions. Like it's going to happen. You got to go back after.
Everyone's learning curve is totally different.
Exactly.
And this episode today is going to be a little shorter than we would like. It's a great topic, and we're going to have more guests on to talk about more of this. And lately I've been getting a lot of questions about big wall climbing and sport climbing, so hopefully we're going to be able to bring in some people who can give you some more insight into that, like Liliana has tonight. Thank you for coming in. Don't break my microphone.
Break the microphone. Please. It's fine.
We have a strict "you break it, you bought it" policy.
I did not sign a contract when I first walked in.
It was
just
a
want that to be noted.
agreement.
We talked about this. We had a conversation about this.
Well, that's about going to do it. But we'll talk more about this. We're going to talk more about training. Next week, we're going to talk about technique. Yeah, that's right. I know you like technique. I was trying to be sexy, but that was...
that was your first mistake.
Shame on me, right? I'm trying to be sexy. Thank you guys for listening to this. Thank you, Liliana, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Is there any final words? Anyone you'd like to shout out that's going to be listening to this?
Hi, Thomas.
What's up, Thomas?
Yo, Tommy.
I just want to give a shout out to, Chris Sharma, just my dude.
And Kobe. Goodbye, Kobe.
And Kobe. Kobe doesn't need a shout out. Kobe gets just a permanent shout out. Okay. Well, thanks, Kobe. We love you, buddy. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week, Monday at 9 a.m. We love you.
Late.
Bye.
Bye.